and what your role is here at Disability Direct.
Hi Vanessa, I'm Sally Austin and I'm the Director of Operations for DD.
And how long have you been working here at DD?
15 years now.
15 years, so you know Amo pretty well, working together.
Yes, yeah, inside and out.
So how would you describe his leadership style?
He's very hands-on. He comes up with some amazing ideas, some not so good ideas, but probably 4 out of 5 work. He is very innovative. He thinks on his feet. He has an idea and he's immediately, we need to implement this. We need to do something about this. We have to make change here. So he keeps me on my toes. Things happen very quickly.
You mentioned earlier he's quite ambitious and wants to do everything at once. Are you the person who reins him in?
Yeah, I try. He comes up with these wonderful ideas that will really benefit disabled people, but he just wants it to happen now, and there's always something else going on. He'll come up with 2 or 3 ideas at a time, so trying to keep him focused on one isn't easy, but we generally manage to get through the list of things that he wants to do.
Brilliant, thank you. Tell us about who you are and your role here at DD.
Okay, my name's Raj Johal. I'm the Services Manager for Blue Sky Brokers, supporting individuals to live in the community independently with a team of 2. I've been here 10 years.
So you've been here 10 years, so you've been working with Amo a while. How would you describe his personality at work?
Amo's personality, no day's the same day. Depends what mood he's in. Full of ideas, like Sally said. Makes you think on your feet. His leadership is great. He'll tell you to go away and think about it and see what you need to do about it, rather than tell you what to do.
So we're finding out about Amo today, his role as a CEO, as a politician, and people might have an idea in their mind with those job titles about what people are like. Do you think there's anything about Amo that we might find out today that might surprise people?
Yes.
He's very down to earth.
Well, he's a singer
as well.
He's released an album. I mean, I think that is going to be quite a surprise for people. Nobody expects this Labour councillor and CEO of a disability charity to have had music in the Indian charts, so yeah, that shocked us. There is a video out there as well, so have a look for that.
We need to find footage of this.
Absolutely.
Wherever he goes, he does mention that, and it does come as a surprise to people.
Yeah, I always say he's got some interesting stories to tell, hasn't he?
Definitely.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks.
We are now at the Enabled Centre, so tell us about what the activities are here.
Varied. If I give you the history, it used to be only just art and woodwork, which are fine, but what I wanted to achieve here was somewhere where disabled people come and learn skills which are going to be useful to the outside world. And whilst art and woodwork do have their place, my biggest thing and part of the ethos of the organisation I work for is that we want disabled people to learn something that's going to help them in their daily life, life skills. So we now have activities. Yes, they still do art, but they're outside now. They're doing desktop gardening. They do cookery classes here. They do health and fitness. They do general light exercises, and then they go out. They go out to the allotment sites. They go out on visits to cultural and art exhibitions, etc. So it's varied. They also do the fun stuff. They do pantomimes at Christmas. They do, as we just heard, pancake races. So they do stuff which keeps them happy at the same time. But as long as we're achieving an outcome, for me, I don't want this to be a day centre. I'm totally against the concept of day centres. It's got to be a life skills centre where they're learning something and it's going to be useful either now or later on in their life.
So tell me a bit about the history of why Disability Direct took on this project with the Enable Centre.
So this was it's an interesting story. It wasn't in our plan to look after a day service. We were primarily an information advice service. But one day out of the blue, I got a phone call from the chair of what was then called Enabled Art, and he basically said, "Look, we're struggling. We're a successful organisation. I had heard of them, but do you fancy taking us over? Can we come under your wing?" And it was a total shock to me. My initial gut reaction was to say no, not interested. But then I thought about it. I had a discussion with the board. I went out. I had a proper look at the paperwork involved, and it was a viable organisation as to what they were trying to do. And for me, I could see that this would be a real positive thing for the organisation to widen our area of expertise. So we took them on. Unfortunately, things were going on in the organisation which shouldn't have, and it required a bit of modernising, shall we say. So we changed the structure, we changed the charging model, and it turned around within 12 months. Let's say when we took them on, they were £30,000 in debt. Within 12 months, we'd put them into 18,000 surplus. So it could be done. It just needed a bit of governance and management. A similar story happened with another organisation that was a day service over at the Rycote Centre called New Horizons. They were being managed by a national charity who had decided that they'd had enough in Derby and basically said, "We're pulling out." And there was about 20 or 30 service users there. It was worrying what would have happened to them if this charity pulled out. So we negotiated a deal with them and we took them over. And I thought to myself straight away, well, hang on, I've got two separate day services running with similar objectives. And the easiest thing was to merge them under one roof with a new identity. We called it the Enable Centre. Again, modernised everything. And what you see today here is pretty much the end product. And it's still work in progress, but I think what we've achieved today is different to the day centre model, which is what we're against. This is actually a proper life skill centre. So yeah, we're really proud of it, and it has become a core part of the charity's activities now. We're really chuffed about it. It costs around £250,000 a year to run, but the costs are being met by the service users' personal budgets. So we're not losing money on it. There's a definite need. There's about 70 service users in total, all spread over the 5 days, and the number's always growing. So we're chuffed.
We can see being here how much this means to the service users who access this space and do the activities here.
Yeah.
But many similar charities have fallen with funding cuts and a climate of charity cuts. Why do you think Disability Direct has survived these challenging times?
The simple answer there is we weren't shy in looking at our strengths, and our strengths were the ability to charge for our service. We were confident that we could, as a charity, charge for a service, and that was something that set us aside from the national picture. A lot of the national disability organisations, they were totally against the charging structure. Our concept of social enterprise, it is now mirrored across the rest of the country. People have copied our model, quite rightly so. We're not precious about it, but the service here, these are budgets that disabled people have that they would spend anywhere else, and they feel comfortable spending it with Disability Direct. And we're not making massive profits on these. It ticks over, and it keeps. And I say, the success is about knowing your strengths and then charging for them. People should not be afraid of charging for their strengths. Charities are obviously set up with a social purpose in mind, and sometimes they can get a little bit worried about, a bit anxious about whether they should charge for their expertise. And I've never shied away from it. It's put us in a different kind of arena sometimes. People get confused as to whether we are a business acting like a charity or a charity acting like a business. But I don't care. If those people's needs are met, that's what matters.
Yeah. Well, it's an interesting balance. So if they're needing to be a charity that delivers outcomes that support people and make a difference to people's lives, but it's clear to see that you're bringing this financial awareness and business skills. Where does that business head come from?
From making a lot of mistakes. No, I mean, I wasn't a businessman before I started here. It was just I learnt slowly. I didn't go on any college courses or anything like that. If you ask me what my qualifications are, you can write them on a postage stamp. I haven't got any business qualifications to back me up. It's just experience. I made a few mistakes along the way, but now I can confidently walk into any organisation and run that business. In fact, one of my other hats I wear is Amo Raju and Associates Limited business consultancy. I have clients that I actually mentor in how to run a business, and that's simply by experience.
So we've got CEO, Disability Direct, running your own consultancy. I know there's been a Bhangra pop star career along the way. Yeah. Father, husband, politician. Yeah. How do you juggle it all?
With vitamin tablets. At some point I need to draw the line. I can't take any more responsibilities on, but I'm a sucker for a challenge. If somebody presents me with a good idea, I'll do that, and then I regret it afterwards. But very rarely do I walk out on something and say I'm not doing that anymore. It's only if it's run its course. But I do like the I still think there's something for me to offer. I'm still on that journey on personal development. So as I'm still developing as a human being, as an individual working in the business and the social sector and even in the political arena, I'm still learning. I'm never going to say that I know everything. I want to keep learning as an individual, and this kind of thing. This organisation, Enabled Art, I feel a lot of Enabled Centre. Sorry, I feel a lot of pride in this, because every time I have a little wobble in what I'm doing, then I come back here and it reminds me what I'm supposed to be doing, who the people are I'm supposed to be working for. So there's a lot of hats I wear, I know, but they all boil down to this kind of stuff.
Well, it's clear you've got this ambition, and you said you like a challenge. Where does all this drive come from? What gives you that determination?
That's a really good question. The drive comes from social injustice. Yeah. I see it happening day in, day out. And then on a personal level, I've had a lot of injustice socially, harassment going for jobs, discrimination going for jobs, harassment, bullying at school, negative attitudes within certain communities, in society in general. It gets to me. Yeah. And I hate to see that the next generation of disabled people are going to have to go through that. Mm-hmm. And for me, I think there's work to be done, and I can't do it myself. I need to work with others to make that happen. And for me, as I say, the interesting thing is, years ago, I don't get it so much now, but I'd say about 10 years ago, I used to get job offers from London with 6-figure salaries, and I turned them down simply because, there's work to be done here in Derby. And I think, for me, Derby is the centre of the universe, and I want to keep making that difference here locally. And I'm not just saying I'm the answer to the disability problems in Derby, no. But I think I've got some ideas and a vision which I think will help meet that need. And that's what kind of drives me. That's what makes me want to kind of still keep doing what I'm doing.
Yeah, we can see that passion shine through.
Yeah.
So I know you've talked about an empowering model here at the Enabled Centre. So who gets to decide what the activities will be?
So it's co-produced. Basically, the service users will get the final say, and they will initially put suggestions that, well, we'd like to do this or we'd like to do that. But equally, we have ideas ourselves, which, as long as it's meeting an outcome of self-empowerment and learning, and they're basically getting a skill that's going to be useful outside these walls, then I've got no issue with what goes on in here. I want to get people to do what goes on in the outside world. A lot of the times people will come here because the society still isn't geared up to meeting their needs. So they will come to the Enable Centre to learn that skill, and then they'll be a bit more confident and successful in accessing a mainstream activity. So as long as we're achieving that as an organisation and they are getting something out of it, that works for me.
You talked about outcomes, and there's a big push from government agencies towards outcomes. What kind of outcomes and difference can you make here for people?
These are soft outcomes. If you're talking from with a government hat on, they'll say, well, we want disabled people into work, and which is great. We want to see disabled people in employment as well. But there's a journey that sometimes disabled people have to take to get to that level. And depending on their level of confidence, they're not going to achieve those heavy, hard outcomes straight away. So we here it's all soft outcome based. The little things: how to make a cup of tea, how to put a frozen pizza in a microwave, that kind of thing. If people are achieving soft outcomes like that, building up their skill set, then they're going to start thinking about, well, I could get a job now. And that's for us where the gap is in society. There's not enough training on those low-level things which a lot of mainstream society takes for granted. And that's what we need to achieve here.
And what's the vision for the Enabled Centre next then? What's the next goal that you've got?
The next goal is something that's been on my plan for a long time. I've put it to the trustees a while ago, and I've got the trustees' blessing, but the issue is I've not got the finance yet. I want to create an independent living flat where some of these people do actually live on their own, but some don't. Some still live with family and they don't know any other life. And I'm not trying to get people to leave home, but I want them to be as independent as possible. So we want to create a training flat where a disabled person can go and for a weekend just learn to live independently with the right care package in place. And I can have a conversation with the local authority to see if they're happy to fund that, because it's in their interests to get disabled people living independently as well. So if we can get that training flat, not necessarily in the building, in a mainstream housing complex, if we can get that going, that would be fantastic, because that is one of the final pieces of the jigsaw here, is to, once they've learnt the skills here, to then say, right, try living on your own.
So that's the next step.
That's my target. Whether I achieve that or not is another thing, but that's the goal.
Fantastic. Well, it's exciting ambition for the future.
Absolutely, yeah.
Great, thanks. So what's next then? Where are we off to next in your day?
So we're back over to head office, another meeting one-to-one with one of the staff, and then off out into the ward later on.
Great, thank you.